Hi everyone, thank you for coming back to my channel. In this video, I'd like to discuss one of the main purposes of the space program that worldwide governments they have been developing over the years. It is not what you think it is. It's not only exploring our own galaxy and investigating the different planetaries in the system, but it is more like in direct contact with different entities in different dimensions, including the demons and fallen angels, reptilians, and so on. If you notice that recently, President Trump has just established a new division, the Space Program Division. I think he is focusing on directly battle with these negative beings spiritually. As if you reference back to the Bible, we are at war not with flesh and blood, but spiritually. With that being said, let's get started. Endgame Part 2. The Antarctica, Atlantis, and ancient alien ruins. The truth is exploding across the internet. Millions are learning for the first time that there really is a negative elite running the planet, engaging in child trafficking among other heinous crimes. The Kabbab's brazen efforts to completely destroy this information are quite surprising to the millions who are only now discovering the scope of the problem. Although this information is extremely disturbing, it is also true. The only way we can heal as a planet is to face it and deal with it, individually and collectively. Part 1 of Endgame has spread more quickly than anything we have ever written before, getting its first 100,000 views in less than 31 hours, hitting 180,000 in 5 days, and topping 10,000 Facebook likes. Perhaps not surprisingly, my page was completely deleted off of Wikipedia after publishing this expose. It was always heavily compromised, but now it doesn't exist. Our goal in part 1 was to create a unified resource of information to show how rapidly the Cabal, NWO, Illuminati's whole agenda is plummeting. Even if you have read and understood the data in part 1, you still have only identified one small and very negative aspect of the big picture. The full story is much deeper than most people could ever imagine, and reads like an epic series of sci-fi novels with great surprises in each new volume. Cosmic disclosure is not fake news. If you're a viewer of our weekly Gaia show Cosmic Disclosure, or have been following Pierre's updates on Corey Good's intel, then you are already familiar with this reality. Corey's experiences are so highly bizarre that most people identifying as skeptics couldn't even follow us more than 10% of the way, if that. Nonetheless, Corey's intel has checked out with what many other high-level sources have leaked to me over 20 years of time. The truth is extremely surprising and complex. The intel also dovetails beautifully with the material in the Law of One series, which I have scientifically validated in 3 different published books, with over 2,200 total references. The Cabal has now taken the incredibly brazen step of blacklisting 200 highly popular sites, including Gaia, our main portal for disclosure TV episodes. They are using Google, Facebook, Apple, Snapchat, and other assets to prevent you from ever being able to find these sites, even if your friends wanted you to see them. YouTube has begun aggressively taking down every person posting videos on this scandal, including all three we mentioned in part 1. David Seaman, reality calls, and the Alex Jones video. This is the work of a third world fascist dictatorship, hardly what we would expect in a democracy. If this was truly all just a big misunderstanding, why are they being so aggressive? Why block Gaia? Why block Gaia have made it onto the short list of 200 cabal banned sites if disclosure, cosmic disclosure was just a big joke? How did we end up threatening the media elite enough that they literally do not want you to have any chance of finding it, even if your friends send you the link on Facebook or Gmail? From the world we are working with, the answer is simple. Child trafficking and spirit cooking at the highest political levels is still just the very beginning. The whole subject of UFOs, ancient civilizations, advanced technology, and ETs has been strictly controlled by this very negative cabal. Much of this classified information is incredibly positive and uplifting, including the idea of an imminent mass human evolution that many refer to as ascension. The cabal is the proverbial dragon guarding the huge pile of gold and treasure, and the gorgeous virgin being held prisoner. If this group wasn't restricting our access to information, we would be living in a vast, more interesting world right now, with much greater technology. Is Corey telling the truth? By working around Corey for an average of 1 out of every 6 weeks over the last 2 years, I've seen ample evidence that he is telling the truth, as he has seen and experienced it. We have endured death threats, betrayal, financial hardship, and incredibly toxic abuse. This journey has not at all been fun or easy for him, nor for me. This is a spiritual war, not just a physical one. The cabal is messing around with very real forces that are extremely negative and can influence those around us. It is all too easy to make mistakes and authorize attacks to come your way from these same forces. In my case, it comes mainly through the interference of others. This has been extremely difficult and exhausting, but it all reads as fairly mundane stuff in the worldly sense. In Corey's case, he has had very horrible physical experiences that most would consider paranormal, including being abducted by various human or ET groups. The only way we can protect ourselves is to try to have as positive and loving of an attitude as possible. Nothing else is sufficient. It is a moment by moment discipline. 5 different group categories all requesting assistance. We also have 5 different major categories of groups that are now feeding us intel and requesting our assistance. We will learn more about each of them as this update goes on. Each of these groups is fighting as hard as they can to transform our planet and have suffered horrible casualties along the way. The Earth Alliance. This is the group Dr. Pearson spoke on behalf of in part 1. It is comprised of brave fighters in all 15 of the U.S. intelligence agencies and many international factions. The MICSSP, Military Industrial Complex Secret Space Program. This is a series of factions that believed they were the only game in town. Up until recently, they are about to be publicly revealed. The SSP Alliance. This is a breakaway group within an SSP that is much more advanced than the MIC version. The SSP is controlled by the cabal, but the SSP alliance is definitely not. The India Earth Alliance. There are several different human ET civilizations living in huge caverns beneath the Earth's surface. Each racial type we see on Earth appears in these groups. The Sphere Being Alliance. This is a group of super advanced ETs that have been called the Guardians and manage the spiritual and physical affairs of entire solar systems. It is not easy to be requests consistently coming at us from all five of these different groups, with the message always being that each new piece of intel is extremely urgent to disclose. We keep getting pounded with obstacles and challenges while trying to navigate and meet these expectations. Despite periodic lapses in both of our productivity levels, Cosmic Disclosure has continued to come out with a new episode every week uninterrupted. We are now under direct attack by the cabal, as they are trying to wipe us out of existence with a total internet blacklist. The cabal's final salvage plan. What we are hearing from various insiders now is that the cabal is on the verge of total defeat for the first time in our entire global history. The alliance has become ever increasingly powerful as more and more people defeat to it. The cabal knows they are out of time, and as of right now, they have largely completed their negotiations on how they will surrender. At the same time, the cabal has stirred on the Earth Alliance that they do not want to see go public. Therefore, it has turned into more of a truce where we will get parts but not all of the truth. This is what we have been calling partial disclosure. We are against this happening and will continue fighting for full disclosure, which will be much better for everyone. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are aware of what we've disclosed, and no one has freaked out about any of it. The excuse that you can't handle the truth is nonsense. The SSP Alliance, India Earth Alliance, and Sphere Being Alliance are all pushing for full disclosure as well, which they call the optimal temporal reality for our future. What is partial disclosure shaping up to look like? The partial disclosure plan includes some admission of wrongdoing, an outing and punishing of mid-level people, and a beneficial global financial reset. The cosmic aspect of the plan appears to involve three key revelations, perhaps in different stages. A formal public disclosure of the MIC SSP. They have two large cloaked orbital platforms, flying black triangle craft, and the ability to travel throughout our solar system. The unveiling of ancient high-tech ruins in Antarctica that have been newly excavated. This will prove that Atlantis was very real and far more advanced than we thought. The revealing of extremely ancient ruins, over 1.8 billion years old, within the Earth and throughout our solar system, often made of a crystalline, transparent aluminum alloy. Although this sounds pretty awesome and would be a great leap forward, this is still only a partial disclosure that leaves gaping holes in our understanding. Another potential plan that is in the optional category involves the possible disclosure of a single ET group known as the Tall Whites. This is the group that Charles Hall and others have met up with. The cabal might try to introduce us to this group, explain they have been around for a really long time, and hope that they can get us to follow a mystical new religion offered by these beings. This would definitely not be in humanity's best interest. The rapidly escalating downfall of high-level elite human trafficking rings is bringing these issues to the immediate forefront. The cabal has run out of time and they know it. For many years, they have planned on using a partial disclosure to distract and inspire the public if the full nature of their crimes were to become known. The details have all been laid out. Much of the history and scientific research to support this idea, as well as the full disclosure version, was written into my new book, The Ascension Mysteries, in an effort to help the alliance groups. The partial disclosure scenario may not include any active ET life operating around us today. The MIC-SSP's Party 9 will be that apart from ancient visitors, or perhaps an occasional gray or tall white, we are alone. So gray or tall white, it sounds like similar to Lord of the Rings. There's a white Gandalf and there's a gray counterpart. The first two episodes of the recently rebooted X-Files TV show were a veritable blueprint for the partial disclosure of the MIC-SSP and its entire belief system. The MIC-SSP does not have the technology to travel outside our solar system, so we would still be kept in a box, just a slightly larger version. The SSP has much greater technology that could heal our planet. The cabal could still secretly pursue their depopulation agenda as the partial disclosure unfolded over a 50 to 100-year period. The cabal is hoping to rebrand itself as the good guys as this partial disclosure scenario rolls out. It is their last and only chance to save their agenda, the secret space program. By now, you probably are aware that I, Corey Good, am a 20-year veteran of a secret space program, SSP, that has technology vastly superior to anything we see in the open world. David Wilcock had been gathering a variety of insider testimonies for nearly 20 years when I began disclosing everything I knew to him in October year 2014. He was able to validate my testimony by having heard many of the same things from other high-level insiders at cosmic top secret level and above. The majority of this insider testimony was completely off the public record and did not appear anywhere online, nor in any alleged fiction in the public domain. There were so many points of correlation that we stopped counting somewhere after identifying about 60 different highly specific examples. David's knowledge of hyper-classified intel similarly convinced me that he was in contact with people who had experienced the same world that I had. He gained this context through being a highly public scholar in UFOs and alternative science who had proven over many years that he could be entrusted with confidentiality. It is hard to imagine. The level of secrecy involved is so high that it is hard for most people to even begin to imagine the world of the SSP. An experience inside a true SSP base on Earth or elsewhere in our solar system would appear very similar to a scene from the movie Men in Black or Guardians of the Galaxy. An ever-increasing number of seemingly fictional movies, television shows, and video games are preparing us for an eventual disclosure. Some groups on Earth have been aware that they are not alone and have remained in active contact with extraterrestrials for thousands of years. Many more became involved when the Germans developed flying saucer technology with ET assistance in the 1930s. A vastly interconnected breakaway civilization has since developed, almost completely without any public awareness. William Tompkins was unaware of me or any of my testimony when he wrote Selected by Extraterrestrials. Ours has strictly been an internet-based story, and Tompkins is a 94-year-old veteran who is not online. During World War II, he debriefed 29 different U.S. spies embedded in the German SSP at the time. There are many astonishing points of correlation between what the two of us are saying, again, far beyond any likelihood of chance. Interviews with Tompkins were conducted for Gaia before he knew anything about my testimony, but it all lines up beautifully. There are several episodes where we compare these knowledge bases, and the results are very surprising. Contact was reawakened. I had basically been out of the loop in the SSP since the late 1980s, except for a number of encounters with them in the 1990s and early year 2000s that were all very brief missions. Much to my surprise, I was brought back into this world approximately 4 months after David and I began comparing notes. I was taken to a base on the moon that I was already familiar with, entitled the Lunar Operations Command, or LOC. By this point, David had gathered the bulk of my testimony together and had thoroughly briefed the senior management of Gaia on the story. I was quite surprised to discover that an alliance had formed within the SSP that wanted to share their remarkable technology with the general population of Earth. This alliance partially arose out of the SSP faction I worked within, known as Solar Warden. There are a total of 5 different SSP factions, and Solar Wardens is made up of members from all 5 of them. The Solar Warden code name was also discovered by the hacker Gary McKinnon and was independently verified by William Tompkins. Spear being Alliance Ambassador, the SSP is already engaged with a diverse community of over 900 different human-like civilizations that they have regular, ongoing trade with, as well as less frequent contact with many others. I became a conduit for the SSP Alliance to speak with a group of highly powerful positive ETs that had remained mysterious up until then. These beings arrived in hundreds of gigantic spheres parked throughout our solar system. The spheres have been coming in since the late 1990s and have remained clogged ever since. David was aware of the spheres ever since they first arrived, as they were often being seen on NASA's own SOHO satellite and were referred to as sun cruisers. No other ET group had anything that was anywhere near this large in size, so it naturally was quite a source of interest. Gonzalez was the key. The man on the inside who ended up bringing me into this world again has been given the pseudonym Lieutenant Colonel Gonzalez for security reasons. He had experienced in-person contact with the spear beings while in the SSP at about the same time I had experienced similar contacts while living here in America. Gonzalez did not report these encounters up the chain of command for some time, nor did I tell anyone about what I had experienced. In late February year 2015, the spear beings asked for me by name through Gonzalez. He did not know who I was, and his superiors has to look me up and figure it out. Up until I was requested by name, the spear beings had completely refused to interact with the SSP Alliance, even though the Alliance felt they were trying to do something positive for humanity. The negative ETs will seek out contact with the most wealthy, powerful elites on Earth to promote their tyrannical, dictatorial, service to self message. The positive ETs seek contact with those who can help share their message of love, peace, and service to others. Thrown in the middle. I effectively got thrown into the middle of a debate between the SSP Alliance and the Spear Beings. Furthermore, the Spear Beings wanted me to serve as their ambassador, sharing their perspective not just with the SSP Alliance but with the general public on Earth. They are here to help guide us through an epic human evolutionary event that many call ascension. I've been told this will involve a massive release of energy from the sun that triggers advancements in DNA and consciousness. Wilcox's new book, The Ascension Mysteries, has references to ancient prophecies of such an event from many different cultures. The giant spears are a form of living technology that is used to help smooth out this transition as much as possible. Without the help of the spears, such a transition would likely be catastrophic and largely unpredictable. The Blue Avians. The main ET group I have interacted with has been the Blue Avians, a race of humanoids with large eyes and bird-like blue feathers on their bodies. We have since discovered that this is the same group that presented itself to the Egyptians through avian-looking humanoid gods such as Ra and possibly also Thoth. Their originally positive teachings were greatly distorted into the negative, as was described in the Law of One series. William Henry found ancient depictions of blue avians in Egyptian and other cultures as reported in Cosmic Disclosure. Bird-headed humanoids are seen in Babylonian and South American inscriptions as well as those of Egypt. Certain Bible passages describe Archangel Gabriel as having a bird-like appearance. Native American cultures also reported contact with the bird tribes, and the Japanese had the Tengu birdmen of the mountains. The Blue Avians are one of 5 mysterious, highly advanced ET races that are associated with the giant spears. The Law of One series. Additionally, the Blue Avians have now absolutely confirmed that they were responsible for the creation of the Law of One series from 1981 to 1984. This was a series of 106 question and answer sessions between a PhD physicist and UFOlogist and an extraterrestrial intelligence communicating telepathically through Carla Rucker. David had been studying the Law of One material heavily since 1996 and had already written 2 New York Times best-selling books on its complex science before we ever started speaking. With that being said, the main blue avian I am in contact with, Raw Tier Ayer, has given us a warning about quoting from the Law of One as if it were a religion. He said many people are starting to quote chapter and verse from it and use it as a belief system that all new information has to mend with or be questioned and possibly rejected. They made it clear that there are certain distortions in the Law of One material that came from the people at LL Research who presented it. If we make it into a bedrock belief system, it can create a personal religion that can be damaging for the individual in their emotional, spiritual evolution. Ultimately, we must all exercise our own discernment and choose for ourselves what the truth is, without ever worshipping any particular document or source. Telepathic contacts. It is also important to note that David has had telepathic contact with these same beings, such as through lightly dream analysis ever since November 10th, 1996. Due to cosmic laws of free will, David has still never experienced the type of in-person contacts that are now happening to me. He has been given a roadmap of stages to go through that could lead to these contacts, and writing his new book, Awakening, in the Dream appears to be one key part of that process. Since I had already been a part of SSP in the 1980s, it did not violate my free will to be brought back into it later in life. This almost obsessive focus with preserving free will is a regular element in every session of the Law of One series. Complex and multifaceted. This story is complex and multifaceted, far beyond anything I would ever dream of trying to invent. This has not this has also not been a profitable move for me to make. I would have had a significantly higher income if I was able to go back into the IT field instead of continuing to fight for full disclosure as I am now doing. In the course of this work as an ambassador, I have come to face with the highest levels of both the positive and the negative sides of this battle. Some of these experiences have been so profoundly unpleasant that I can only laugh when people say they wish they could be in my shoes. The full narrative arc has been traced out in Cosmic Disclosure, our show on Gaia, as well as in these updates at spearbeingalliance.com and at David's website, divinecosmos.com. Various characters in the story. I have also met up with an alliance of human-looking beings living in huge, habitable caverns inside the earth. My main contact therein is a priestess named Kar-Ari. As described in previous updates, I also recently was introduced to an ambassador from a planet in a nearby star system that recently overthrew their own negative ET-driven tyranny. His name is Ambassador Mika. They are now working predominantly through dream contacts to help educate us on how to achieve our own freedom from these malevolent beings. Lieutenant Commander Gonzalez was my original contact with the SSP Alliance, and he continues to pass along intel at this time, as seen below. He originally presented himself as a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. This was his cover ID, and I recently found out he was actually a lieutenant commander in the Navy. Lastly, I have been interacting with a more Earth-based SSP that is run by the military-industrial complex. The MIC-SSP is unaware of the greater space program I was a part of, as we will discuss. A visit from the MIC-SSP. Once again, in the early morning hours of Wednesday, October 26th, I awoke to find that I was walking in the parking lot behind my house. This type of sleepwalking technology is standard fare for the military industrial complex space program group that has been contacting me in the recent past. I immediately noticed the same stealth-looking MIC wingless craft that I was taken in last time. It was parked in the same place it had been in the last time I was taken. The same two airmen greeted me and asked me if I was physically able to walk up the stairs. Since I had almost fallen after my knee buckled the last time they contacted me, they seemed as though they were being overly cautious. I went up the stairs, entered the craft, and was brought to the familiar room where I had been chemically interrogated before. This naturally caused me to feel extreme anxiety, since the original interrogations I went through were not pleasant to say the least. I was asked to sit in the same seat and was buckled in. Once again, I was helpless, shackled into the same chair where I had suffered greatly in the past. I soon heard the craft power up and we lifted off fairly quickly. A visit from Sigmund. A few minutes later, the older the older military man who was in charge came into the room. Since he was white hair and white goatee, he has white hair and a white goatee. We have decided to call him Sigmund in an homage to Freud. Sigmund stated that he was a bit perplexed at the information he had received from our last encounter. In addition to enhanced interrogation through chemicals and technology, he had previously taken blood, hair, and skin samples and tested them for trace elements using very advanced methods. The lab results once again confirmed that I had been in the approximate off-planet locations I had claimed. The MIC space program people do not have any intelligence suggesting I had ever actually visited these locations. I was never a part of their program. For this same reason, Sigmund clearly could not believe what he was seeing. My tests proved, beyond any shadow of doubt, that there was much more to the secret space program than he knew. As a high ranking superior officer, this naturally came as quite a shock to him. He was led to believe that he had access to all relevant compartments of the classified world. The MIC are not the only game in town. The people in the MIC space program have been taught that theirs is the only one that exists. They believe they are the top of the crop, the best of the best, and the be-all and end-all. Since there is a plan in place to disclose their existence, we will now review as much about them as possible, as you can get a sense of what they do and don't know. They are aware of the existence of Luciferian cabal groups practicing very advanced black magic on a global scale. This includes exacting protocols of performing specific ceremonies at specific times. It also involves hiding out in the open and telling us what they are doing in symbolic form. Events like the Grammy Awards, the Super Bowl halftime show, or the Olympics opening and closing ceremonies are used to broadcast occult images to millions of people. This in turn authorizes the negative forces they are working with to exact greater control over the earth and enhance their worldly power, as long as no widespread resistance develops. They do this through seeding our co-creative consciousness with their agenda. Our collective focus is the root power of their magic. The MIC people often believe that they are literally engaged in a biblical war against an ancient evil that has taken control of much of the earth. Again, different aliens from different galaxies mean different beings from different dimensions. The advanced technologies that we've been using is all coming from those beings, and definitely not invented by any humans. So right now we are at the final last second of being raptured out from here. And there's also a lot of confirmations. If you have watched different Watchmen videos, they've already sounded last alarm, and rapture is next, and sudden destruction and the deep state, alien invasion, abduction, delusion agenda will then publicize through the mainstream channels. Recently, I've got YouTube crashing my computer at least once a day, and I'm not sure if they have already hacked my laptop, but every single time they crash my laptop, then there's a message asking for my password to make changes on my laptop, but I just shut down my laptop anyways. And YouTube started to take down our channels, and they unsubscribe people from our channels, and also hide our videos from recommending to viewers. So for the past few videos, the number of views of my videos significantly decreasing. So we are really at the very last second, and I know that we're waiting for the rapture around next Monday or Tuesday, which is the last day of the Hebrew year, going to the new Hebrew year, which is 5780. But I am expecting something will happen this coming weekend. So, and if you watch the latest Dutch Sense video regarding California, earthquake is overdue, and it might happen any time from now to this coming weekend. That's my prediction. I could be wrong, but I just hope you guys will take heed and be cautious. I'll talk to you guys in the next video, which is the part 2 of this video. Okay, in the meantime, take care of yourself. I'll talk to you later. Bye.